What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access, and today we are joined by Big Gipp. Thank you for coming through, sir.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Always a pleasure and an honor. Yes, yes. So, Gipp, man, you got a lot going on, and musically, I know you worked on the Daz Mataz album with Daz, and you also have a project with Daz. So, what's your involvement with Daz, and why do you guys link so well together?
Well, let's first of all go here. Like one day he called me, you know, Dad stays in Atlanta also, so one day he called me and said, yo, Gipp, I'm over here at the house making music. And what's so funny about it, that the whole 20 years that I've been knowing Daz, it was like me and Corrupt always ran together. Daz and Cujo always ran together. So, you know, he called me one day, was like, yo, let's work on some music. Let's just have fun. First record we did was a record called Type of Girl. Very well received on the South Side, and I was like, yo, like, since we get received like this, we might as well just go ahead and do an album. So, first record we did for his album was Bang Bang. We did that record, and the next thing you know, we went back to Atlanta and we just started working on the album. So, our ATLA album with me and Daz, which says really Atlanta and Los Angeles, we'll always be connected because most of the time our family come from the South in the West, and most of our family in the South, if you're not in the South, then you move to the West. So we just made it plain and simple, ATLA. We got a movie called ATLA, Daz wrote. It's kind of a new version of House Party, and it's all about Daz moving from the West Coast to the South, and I'm teaching him all the different things, and he teaching me all the different things that's different from the South and the West. So it's gonna be a very comedic movie, and Daz wrote it. So I can't wait till people see it.
Yeah. And then, like you were mentioning earlier too, the Dungeon family and I think the Dog Pound legacy is so tight because obviously Roscoe also has worked extensively with you guys. So why do you think that you guys have connected so well, the Dog Pound and the Dungeon family?
Well, what's so funny, people don't know the history that, you know, Dog Pound and the Dog Pound first album, and Dog Food and Soul Food came out months apart.
Yeah, right. Back in '95.
So the first time we came to LA, the first time we did a, really like, back then it was mom and pop stores, you know. And I gotta let all the rappers know, back then there was no rappers in Hollywood. You either stayed at the hotel by the airport or you stayed in South Central. You know, there was no rappers in Hollywood during this time. So the first place we performed, man, I mean the first day we got there, and we hooked up, and we was at our OG's, first place was our OG's record store. They call them Big A. And that was the first time I got to see Dog Pound perform live, and it was the first time they got to see us live. But that experience really let me know that Los Angeles was the city of gangs, because when they performed, the gang banging started, and as everybody know, that was the early '90s. So LA was still LA to the fullest.
Well, break down. I remember you had told me about a story you had with CJ Mack.
Yeah,
so
like
what happened?
What happened? This all happened the same time. So we left there after we performed at Big A store, and we went to go eat.
Oh, Big A, that's the Underground Taste in Compton, right? Yeah.
We left
off Alondra. Big A, what's up, man? That was my first time ever going to Compton, Big A.
Big A.
What up?
We left Big A store, we went to go eat at Eminem's. And I mean, me and Cujo ate, and I mean, Cujo was like, man, I gotta go get me a blunt, man, I gotta get me a blunt. So I was like, I'll go with you, Joe. So we leave everybody else sitting at the table, and we call ourselves walking down the street. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, CJ Mack pull up and say, yo, Gipp, yo, Joe, get in the car. And I'm like, yo, what's wrong, CJ Mack? He was like, yo, man, y'all got on all red, and y'all in the Crip neighborhood, man. Y'all get killed out here, you know? So it was the first time that we were saved by OG. It was the first time we ever had a show with Dog Pound, and it was the first time we got taken to the swap meet, Slauson swap meet. That's why we first met Daddy V, the OG. In the parking lot, you know what I mean? So, you know, during those times, man, it was raw and uncut, man. It was rap, and you had to sell your album in the hood to the people. And I remember on that same trip, the dude who had us running around LA, his name was Scotty Spencer. Scotty took us to Jordan Downs. That was the first time I went to Jordan Downs. And it was so funny because when we went to sign the autographs in Jordan Downs, they told us that day, they said the only people we allow over here who got red on is Goodie Mob and Tupac. That's the only thing we play over here. Anything else, we don't play that, you know what I mean? So we really got introduced to Los Angeles the right way back then, because even that same trip, we got to meet Mike Concepcion. We got invited to Mike Concepcion's house, and during that same trip, we was invited to the Gang Truths, you know, at Jim Brown's house, where we met all the leaders of the Bloods, all the leaders of the Crips, and we was probably the only South dudes there, just sitting there listening to the brothers talk about how they could, you know, bring a truce amongst each other.
Obviously, at the time, Soul Food was the only project that Goodie Mob had out, but I wanted you to explain how you think over the years people gravitated to your music because of the soulfulness, because of the power of it, and like, you know, speaking about not only the societal injustices, but how you guys framed them differently than had been done previously with a Public Enemy or Boogie Down Productions. Like, what was it about how or what you guys did, especially with Soul Food, that made it such a album that hit people so hard?
I think that was the first time that we as rap at that time, the first time that we intertwined God with gangster. You know, you could listen to us and tell that all of us were seasoned street guys, but at the same time too, it was the first time that we said gangsters do pray. Gangsters do have grandmamas, gangsters do know right from wrong, and gangsters do walk with God, you know. And I think when you heard stuff like Free when the album started, 1 million niggas inside, you know, Cell Therapy, where we just educated you on just, you know, the Illuminati. We educated you on these chips that we now got on our debit cards. Now, it's so funny that, you know, just a couple of years back, I was getting off the plane in London, and one of the brothers said, "Yo, Gipp, look at this," and it was an actual ad where you could go and get a chip in your finger, you know what I mean, to take care of your bills. Anything you wanted to do, the same thing you could do with your debit card, you can go and get a chip inserted into your finger. So it was almost like God gave us something that we didn't even know we had then. You know, he gave us, we were fortune tellers. And, you know, at the same time too, it was because of where we came from. Us being from Atlanta and being from the Bible Belt, you know, we came up with civil rights, with the civil rights. We came up with Martin Luther King. We came up with Andrew Young's son, you know, Maynard Jackson's son. Like, we got to actually see the power of black people. So, you know, we knew we couldn't just make no album just talking about the streets. We had to put some God in it, and we had to put some truth in it. And that's what made Soul Food great at the time.
And I think too that that's why now, you know, more than 20 years later, I think it still matters to people, and people still reference it. Like David Banner and I did the best albums on that album because it's phenomenal. But I also think too, like you're saying, another thing too that Soul Food I think did was brought in addition to the God talk, it was a other layer of spirituality, in my opinion, that I think hadn't been done to that level. So what made you guys think that the spirit, God, the streets, the politics, racism, American, you know, colonialism, all that stuff would work in rap?
Because we still lived in the dirty South. You know what I mean? Like, we still was able to see what the North and the West probably couldn't see at the time, you know. Atlanta is still a divided city. I mean, I can tell you the truth, bro. I've never been to school with anybody but black people my whole entire life. So for me, you know, I just think it was an interpretation of what the world was from our eyes that you only could see unless you lived in the South. You know, for us to come up with Dirty South, I mean, Cool Breeze did that. What's so funny about Soul Food, man, we did Dirty South, Cell Therapy. Those were the last 2 songs of Soul Food. So, things like thought process was already down, you know what I mean? So for me, the reason why we felt like it would work because we were such fans of Public Enemy. And I've always been such a fan of Ice-T. He was able to blend streets and politics together at a time that people wasn't doing that. So for us, I felt like at that time we were the first to mix this street politics, God, and gangsterism in one album, and that's what really, made the soul food so great to me because we said stuff like the Serenity Prayer when we knew at that time like that was something you could walk in anybody's grandmother's house and see it up on the wall in the kitchen. And I knew a lot of black people had seen this and really not paid attention to it. But when they heard us say it on the album, it was like, damn, that's what grandmama had on the wall. Like, that's been in my face my whole life. Now I see how much that prayer is truth. You know what I mean? So just doing things like that, it just made it a well-rounded album, you know.
And I think too, obviously, prior to Dungeon Family, there had been the MC Shy D's, and there had been other people out.
Yeah.
But you guys, I think, transform and revolutionize rap in so many different ways that we're still seeing the impact of today. So that being said, I think Atlanta also doesn't get a lot of credit for being so diverse sonically, thematically, and everything that it is. So even though Atlanta is, in my opinion, to a large degree, one of the main, if not the main driving force of music for the last 20-some years, why do you think it doesn't get recognized for that?
Because people didn't see us coming, first of all. Let's talk about it. Because at the end of the day, I don't think New York ever thought that anybody was going to be able to do what they did or captivate or take the game like we did. I mean, nobody saw Dr. Dre doing The Chronic. That was like one of the biggest records of all time, you know? Nobody saw that coming, and I just feel like New York, they're working on it, but they've always had a problem with other people's message or other people's interpretation of what rap was, you know, and, but if you think about it, CeeLo was one of the first that you heard singing like that. It was him and Lauryn Hill, period. You know what I mean? If it was Lauryn, it was CeeLo. So for me, I guess that's what made our shows great. I mean, because Goodie would go up there and mix maggot brain and do cell therapy. We would mix Cameo with soul food. You know, like we were just musically more in tune with funk and R&B, and you know that's why we had to go so hard, you know, on the stage, because at that time New York wasn't really recognizing nobody else's talent. You know what I mean? And you know they didn't start recognizing us because it's funny. One night I remember us performing in New York one night, and it was Goodie Mob, Big, and Fat Joe. And I remember that night when Fat Joe performed. Fat Joe was new to New York. A Puerto Rican rapping was new to New York at that time. And we got to see how he wasn't all the way accepted. We got to see how the Wu-Tang wasn't all the way accepted. And so, you know, what we started to do is say, you know what, we're gonna ignore what they talking about, and we just gonna go all the way, we just gonna go for it. That's when you start seeing Gipp doing the outfits. You know what I mean? Because I was like, okay, if you gonna say you don't understand us, then I'm gonna wear some shit so wild that you gonna remember us. So it was a strategy, but it worked. It worked. And then it was like when we would do the shows and then we would cut the music off, and then CeeLo would hit you with the poem live. Like it was something that nobody was doing back then, man. So, you know, one thing I look at it now, New York had everything, man. Everybody was making the labels. They was, you know, you had Rough Riders, you had The Rock, you had, you know, so many, you know, interpretations of what New York was. But the reason why I think New York don't have the power that it has because everybody sold out. Everybody wanted the check. So everybody sold out, everybody got the check. But now you don't have anything. Now New York sound like Atlanta.
Yeah, that's true.
You can go to New York now and it sound like Atlanta radio. So, you know, one thing I would tell anybody is, man, give people a fair chance or them same people might take over your crib one day.
I think it's happened.
And they not giving the ball back. The
Right.
South, man, they never can't beat the South no more, because as long as we got the most strip clubs, it's a place an artist can go and take their music and get an instant reaction. And if you get an instant reaction, you know if that record big or not. You know what I mean? And shout out to Migos, man. 1 billion streams in 20 days, man. Now Atlanta, to me, has reached this trifecta, because now you have stars on the south side, stars on the west side, stars on the east side, and now we got stars on the north side. Hey, man, I don't know. These people gonna have to get back together to beat them boys down south, man. Because we really working together, and that's another thing, man. We, you know, in the South, man, our thing is everybody eat. I think the biggest thing that I think that the East and the West does, that I think that the South don't do, we don't elevate nobody to the status of being nobody's bigger than them. Like, we don't do that. Everybody's great. When you just make one man the God, or one man he's the greatest, then hey man, the culture and the streets and everything up under it gets suffocated and it dies. What we've done from day one, we've been pulling more and more of us in the game. First time you ever seen T.I., he was on the bus with Goodie in D.C. You know what I mean? So for us, we've always pulled back. We've always said, yo, Shawty, he the king, he the one. He can rap, he understand hip hop, and then the same way we could turn around and say, hey man, what Drum has done, what Migos has done, what 21 Savage has done, like look at what they doing. It's like 21 Savage is on one of the biggest pop records, like the Post Malone record. It's like to be able to see a ninth ward kid come and be on a pop record that I know is pop radio, that's big, man. That's big. And I think as long as we stay us and not try and be nobody else, we'll stay at the forefront of hip hop.
Yeah, and I think too that sonically, because of all the great producers and the sounds that, you know, have constantly evolved from Atlanta in particular, that has like that ripple effect to where people from outside the A want to work with people from the A, which then spreads it even further.
True that, because like right now to say who, like Atlanta is too many to name, is like Mike Will. Man, what he's did with Ray Sherman is like, yo, man, you can't really beat that. Metro has become one of the biggest. My little nephew, Southside, he's one of the biggest, man. We got to say Zaytoven, you know, what Gucci's been able to do. We also got to always tip our hat to Shawty Red, because he helped start that whole trap music sound. So with me, I'm just glad that Atlanta keeps rotating. It's like Rich the Kid, Lil Schoolie. It's like, I love Pee Wee the Long Way. I love what he doing, you know. My thing is just, I want them to keep pushing. As long as we keep pushing and don't get caught up in the things and the trinkets that come along with the business. Fame is a motherfucker, but, you know, I tell all my young ones, man, like, put your money up, man. Stop giving your money to all these folk about that jury, man, because that jury, all you got to do is, you know, we did it one day. We bought a necklace for $68,000, right? We tried to take it back in an hour. Them folks said, man, we can't give you your money back, but we can help you. You can find something in the store that we can replace it with. That should tell you right there that it's not worth what you spent for it. So I say this, bros, like, put more money up than you spend. Don't buy a lot of cars, because you're going to be on tour a lot for the first few years of your career. You know, put your money up, make sure you have something, or do something, you know. People don't get
property.
Yeah, buy property. And then let's look at it like this. I mean, Rick Ross, man, the whole Wingstop thing, again, another, you know, brother from the South that has taken his platform and changed it into something else. That's what we got to do, because, you know, I tell kids all the time, like, the time that you're on top is shorter than the time it took you to get there. You know, and, you know, being number one and being at the top of the game, it's like a blur. You're going to wake up one morning, you're going to be past that time. So just understand that put more of your money up than giving it away. because, you know, I don't know how many of y'all gonna make it to see 20 years, 25 years in this game. You know, it's not set up for us to make it this long. But if you make sure you have a great show and you make sure that the albums that you put out is something that you feel like is gonna be something you could play 20 years from now, then hey man, put your best into it. And we gotta shout out Future. I gotta shout out Future since that's Dungeon Family. I gotta shout out that, you know. And I give so much praise to the youngins because I just see how they just taking this shit and they turn it into a real business.
Right.
You know, that's all. I just love, that's why I love Atlanta so much, because it's like we're not gonna let one person rule. Somebody else gonna try and knock him down next week.
Right.
But it's our friendly competition, and as long as everybody eating, man, I think we'll have the ball secured.
And then you also have a line that you're working on.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
what's that about?
I'm doing my own cannabis line, you know, in conjunction with some friends of mine, and I think it's gonna be one of the biggest lines that come out. I'm just here to just find my new place in hip hop and not have to make records so much, because, you know, Goodie Mob's still touring during the summer. We're talking about re-releasing Still Standing through Columbia, and they're doing like a whole Still Standing tour. And, you know, and for those that don't know, all our albums are platinum. I know a lot of people think that just Outkast went platinum, but all of our albums are platinum, you know, so I just want to let people know that it's great to see people like Kendrick, J. Cole right now even surviving in a game that's just built for just club music, you know what I mean? So as long as we still got a few out here doing it the old school way, which is hip hop, I'm cool, man, because it keeps everything fresh and everybody not doing the same thing.
Right. Well, there it is, y'all. Big
Yeah.
Gipp. Appreciate it, man. As always, I'm Soren Baker, Unique Access, Big Gipp. Thanks for coming through, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Raps with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the street. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.